Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular City Council meeting for Monday, October 16th, 2023. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Our first item on the agenda is a public hearing as it relates to mobile food service vending. Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Good evening, everyone. We are having a public hearing for the amendment of the zoning code as it relates to mobile food vending services. The actual amendment is in the packet that is on the city website. Some of the highlights of what the changes are is the proposed changes include requiring an annual permit instead of the current 15-day temporary permit, permitting overnight parking of mobile food vendors where zoning allows it and the property owner complies, reducing separation requirements from 400 feet to 200 feet from residential property, and permitting mobile food vendors at residential amenity centers. One thing to note, these changes do not apply to special events. They are still under their own list of rules. As it stands, no one signed up for comments for the public hearing. I will, however, open up the floor if anybody has comments on this topic and this topic alone. And with that said, Mayor, council members, the public hearing is over. We are handing it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Planning Committee.
Our next item on the agenda is a discussion and consideration of utilizing Zonostat D as a means of wildlife control. Since this council began working together almost 2 years ago, we've been discussing what to do about the deer population. We've counted the deer and surveyed the residents. We've consulted with experts, and we have not taken this issue lightly. It's very complex, as you can imagine. At our July council meeting, we did vote directing staff to move forward with obtaining the necessary permit from SCDNR to cull the herd. Staff has completed that task, and SCDNR will only approve us to take 80 deer, regardless of the fact that we have almost approximately 1,028 deer. Over the past couple of months, council has had the opportunity to meet with the newly formed TK Conservation Society and learn about native PZP known as Zonostat D. To put it bluntly, it's birth control administered via a dart. SCDNR does not limit the number of does we are able to dart in a year, nor do they limit the time of year we can do this. This is the reason this on the agenda is to discuss and to determine whether council still wishes to move forward with culling the herd, or does council wish to implement the PZP program first and direct staff to implement that program. Gentlemen, I will open the floor.
I mean, I'll go first if you guys would like. Obviously it's been a topic of conversation for a few years at this point, as far as for a public safety issue. What does it look like it's the city's split 50-50 on love the deer, hate the deer. It is what it is. We all have our own perspective. For me personally, it's a matter of what can we do to responsibly control the deer population, as at some point, is it too much? In my personal opinion, yes, at a certain point it gets to be too much. So there's something that has to be done when it comes to PZP, and thank you guys for advocating for it, because it was a big reason. I can't speak for these gentlemen next to me, but it's a big reason that we did the research and got feedback and are considering moving forward with that type of program. And so, you know, in my opinion, when it first started, we could take 80 deer a year. There's 600 new does or babies every year-ish, you know, just based on the deer population. We don't know, but so how long would it take to get the deer population to an acceptable level? And when it comes to eradication and whatnot, it would take, you know, years and years. So this is, when it comes to PZP, it's an additional tool that the city could use as a form of birth control, so to speak, to try to reduce the deer population over time that is 100% and completely humane. And so I'm all about it.
If I may, Mayor and members of council, I have to agree with Councilman Richard on his comment about the PZP. If there are a lot of ifs associated with this program that still have to be answered, and for the public's knowledge, the birth control process would likely be most effective after the does have given birth to their young. The next 4 weeks is mating season for the deer. So if we can't take action now and it be effective before mating season, which is really upon us, then it's not going to be effective this year. And in my mind, we're going to waste an entire year of expense to administer that drug to not see effectiveness until a year from now. So we did take a unanimous vote to move forward with culling. I still support that decision, and I think we should move forward with that. And I think the second prong to that approach should be to continue to pursue the PZP process and get those ifs answered, so we have a clear direction on what that looks like, what the expense of that looks like, what the labor cost looks like, and what the timing of that looks like, because I don't think we have those answers yet.
Okay, Mayor, members of council, and everybody who came today. First, I would like to thank the Conservation Group for all the hard work that they did in getting us some information, because originally when we looked at this, that was really not presented to us as an option. That being said, last year, if I remember correctly, I believe we were told that the city picked up 160 some odd deer that either died of natural causes, got hit by a car, got sick, impaled themselves on a fence, whatever. That was 160. The state will not bend on allowing us to do more than cull 80. I still think we should move forward to that based on the numbers that we've seen from the studies. Let's do what we can this year. I would agree with Councilman Shirley that not doing anything for another year doesn't work for me. Based on we increased 300-400 deer last year from the count, if I remember correctly. I would also say I would like to continue to get the real facts, not that they aren't real, but what it would truly cost to administer the PZP. The numbers that we were given in the beginning about the culling were far lower than what they actually are. It's real easy to say, we'll just dart the deer. Okay, but I mean, we got to hire somebody to do that. How much are they going to charge? We have to get a special permit to do it, which I think we're going to look into. It's not an approved method yet in our state. So there's a lot of things that have to happen for that to happen, but we've been given some good information, and I think that that's the most effective long-term method of controlling our deer population, would be to be sterilization. But sterilization doesn't work overnight. I mean, it takes a while. But I think a combination of the two methods will be the best way to get it back under control. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Gus. Mr. Mayor, members of council, public, thank you all for being here. I'll echo Gus's thank you to the Wildlife Society, Conservation Society. Let me sure I say it right. Thank you for all your hard work. When we met with you, it was eye-opening. And I think everyone can agree. The one thing we can all agree on is we have too many deer. The question is, what do we do with them? if I'm not mistaken, and Charlie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but with the permit we have approved for 80 deer, we have till March to
Correct, you have
execute
until March 1, yes, sir.
so, and I know we're still waiting on answers on PZP. So I bring that up because I don't know if we have to make a decision tonight on how we move forward. I personally, if, as Scott said, there's a lot of ifs, but if the PZP can get approved in the state and we can start using it, I'm all for it. It's just, to me, it's safer, it's simpler, it's cheaper. And, I think it'll be more effective because shooting 80 deer really isn't gonna do a lot when we're having 600 born a year. If we can stop those, say we stopped at the 400, that's even more than the 80. So I'm proposing, or just suggesting that we continue to discuss this. We have till March to do the culling. Give Clemson a month or two to approve or deny. At that point, we could make the decision to move forward with the culling if we have to. But I agree with Scott that we need to do something. And I don't want to wait a whole year, but if we can get the PZP approved before the permit expires, then we can make that decision and go that route. That's how I feel.
Well, council, I would like to weigh in on this as well. I'm not a deer expert. I have not spent a lot of time in the woods. Do we have a number on percentages on what kind of pregnancy rates we have for the doe?
No, sir, not handy with me. We've got a buck to doe percentage. We've got a deer to acreage percentage, and that was in the last report that we sent. If you can give me a moment.
Now, in that
Let's
study,
see if I
didn't it
can pull
mention
that
the
up.
number of fawns that we had, that they counted?
In the prior studies, I know that it did. If you'll give me one moment, let me see if I can.
If memory served me
this
correctly, it was
information for you, sir.
157 fawns that we counted this time.
Let's see. Let's see.
Charlie, didn't the number go from the 800s to the 1200s?
It went from the estimated count as of this fall was 1,028.
Okay, thank you.
And the prior count from almost exactly a year ago, in the fall of 2022,
The high eights, if I remember.
let's see here, you had, let's see, we had 349 deer per square mile. I'm looking for an estimated total 873 from fall of 2022. So you went up just under 200 estimate on the total population. And again, that's just looking at the peninsula based on the number of acreage square miles of the peninsula. So it just to the public, if they've been following along or they're new to this story, when we first started looking into this a couple years ago, DNR really didn't provide a lot of options, right? And PZP was not one of them. Reason being because it is not approved in the state at this point. The folks with the Wildlife Conservation Society have done a tremendous job in working to get Clemson University, who is the authority on that, to get that approved. Speaking with them actually via email today, they're getting close and hope to have an update sometime in the coming days, weeks. So it could be a relatively quick turnaround. I don't know that we're talking months. I think we're really talking weeks on that approval. Mr. Charlie and the mayor were on a Zoom call with me, with them and with Dr. Charles Ruth from SCDNR. He did say all it is just a letter from us that, hey, we would like to utilize this per the label once it's approved, and there is no limit. It's just as much as we want to fund, and there is no time of year on it. Whereas the culling does have the September 15th to March 1 timeframe on it. We do have those 80 deer tags. Those are sitting in the office as we speak. Dr. Ruth on that call did recommend that we dart first, and then consider the culling, but he did say you should probably consider the culling, just based on the sheer numbers. But he did recommend that we, if we wanted to move forward, that would probably be a better option in darting first, before culling. So, for whatever it's worth, in talking with my staff, I would recommend that we try the PCP, assuming that it does get approved, and we continue to do the counts, and we attempt to do this over the course of 2 years, starting this year and into next fall, and see if those numbers are dropping the way that studies have shown that they've dropped in other areas. And if they don't, you still have the culling. That was a pretty simple process. We send them a letter, and I think it was about 2 to 3 weeks later, we got the approval and the tags in the mail. But that, again, for whatever it's worth, that would be our recommendation at this point. But obviously, we're going to follow council's direction, whatever direction that may be. I think Mr. Shirley brought up a good point, both during that call as well as tonight. Yeah, you're getting into that mating season. So time is definitely of the essence there. Are all the does on the peninsula going to be pregnant? Probably not. But getting out and darting and knowing which ones are and which ones aren't, I don't think that's something we're going to be able to figure out. So, yeah, in future years, if we are doing the darting, I think that's something that some of our staff could get trained up on, to be where we could do that in-house. But I would definitely recommend for at least the first year, if that is the way council goes forward, that we hire experts to come in and do that for us the first year.
The reason for my question, Charlie, that I asked was about the fawns. We've got 1,000 deer. I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but if you got 1,000 deer, all of them aren't does. There's got to be some bucks. I would say that probably it's not a half and half ratio. I mean,
A little more does usually than bucks.
that's what I'm thinking, you know.
60-40 probably.
40, something like that. So with that, if you got 1,000, so you got 600 does. Out of that, and maybe I didn't see it, maybe I did see it, but I thought I
So
remembered.
on the previous study that we did with DNR, your bucks per doe is 0.4.
Okay.
So you got 0.4 bucks
So it's
per
2 to
doe.
1.
So yeah,
Right.
So I'm thinking, I understand that all of the does are not going to get pregnant during the rut this year. To your point, yeah, if we dart the ones that are pregnant, then we're not actually going to be using all of the potency of that dart. You know, we would cut we cut it in half.
A year of that effectiveness
It'd
would
be
go
1
away.
year effective.
Right.
But all the doe are not going to be pregnant at the same time, so we would be able to utilize that kind of a measure in a good percentage of the does. Yeah, and we would get that 2-year protective layer if we did, you know, just sheer numbers. And we would drive down the population at least for 1 year. And then with the natural attrition that we've got, I mean, we're on track to 169, 170 again this year.
I think we're already there. We're probably
there
on track
now.
for 200.
It was 169 last week.
Right.
so
yeah.
we're at 169 as
Yeah, that
the
run
end of the
rate's over
fiscal year.
200 this year, yeah.
So with that, you know, the good Lord's taking care of a lot of it for us. But you know, in that, we can only take 80 is my big thing. 80 is kind of a drop in the bucket, and I understand the multiplier. I get it. I get the multiplier. But if we were to take out that, we could dart 600, that would be awesome. Dart that many deer.
What's the cost of that?
But that's what I'm
we know?
saying. You know, we're going to have to.
That is, the cost is something that we're working with the Conservation Society. They did tell me that they spoke with Dr. Ruth recently, and he has given them some outfits that actually do that. So,
Good.
just for memory's sake, the estimate that we got from the USDA group to do the culling is about $40,000, and we're anticipating additional $40,000 in our man hours for additional law enforcement if we go that route. So you're looking about $80,000 to cull, 80 deer.
$1,000 a deer. Where's Dr. Ruth when we need him? Where's that 250 number he talked about?
Yes, sir.
So I'm just, from an economical standpoint, from a numbers standpoint, I understand that some of those, our does are going to be, we're only going to get a year effectiveness on the dart. The others will have 2. After that, there's a booster that we have to administer. Do it again. And just keep going. And I think we'd be very effective if we start in the, in early spring. Once the phones are, spring, summerish, once the phones have come to us again,
I think Alicia recommended August and September.
August to September. Yeah,
which
but I think
probably
that's a really tight window to try to cram in as many as we can.
And I'm assuming there's no way to identify who's been darted and who's not, right?
Well, there's a dual chamber on the dart gun that would administer a dart and a
dye,
a
dye
pack.
pack.
Yep.
So that you would see. Now, how long that dye pack lasts? I don't know. They can rub it off on trees, as soon as it hits and it doesn't dry, or, whatever. So there is still some trial and error with it. But I mean, I'd like to, in my opinion, I'd like to give Clemson the old try. They're a fairly good institution. I've had some successful folks come out of Clemson.
You know a few.
Did I right? But I think if we're in the weeks mode, that let's cool our jets for a minute and see what happens in the few weeks to come. We still have the option to call the herd if we've got those tags. If something were to happen and this thing just falls apart,
Yep.
we still have that as a backup to where we can utilize that option this year. I just don't want to jump the gun and not see this whole thing through as far as we can with this alternative. I mean, with the,
remain consistent, right? 80 per year?
Yes, sir. According to
Currently,
Dr. Ruth, we would have to go before their board, the DNR board, to get any type of special approval. And from what he's told us,
That's not
they
very
are
hopeful, is
not
it?
doing that. It's you do 80, and that's it. They're not giving anyone permission to go over 80.
And I would think also, if we do go this PCP route and it doesn't work, it gives us more evidence that we need to take more than 80.
I would agree with that.
And in that meantime, we may be able to
I
have
think
some
if we
politicians put
take a
pressure on
valid
it.
effort in the darting and show that it is not having a positive effect on our numbers, I think that just gives us even more of an argument with DNR
Right.
in
I
future
think we have a pretty good
conversations,
one
for sure.
now, but that's pretty hard to ignore that data.
I would tend to agree, yes, sir.
But it would be my hope that we get through this process with the PZP and it becomes a long-term solution for us. And maybe it's even equally or more economical than culling. I'd have to say that everything that everyone said up here has a lot that I agree with. I think doing nothing at this time is the wrong decision. However, I would probably most identify with what Councilman Heislip said, that we have till March. And if we give Clemson the flexibility that they need to put their stamp of approval on this, DNR to give their approval, the Wildlife Society and staff to work on what the economics looks like, and maybe we talk about this in a month or two, that might be a more prudent decision. At that point, we're going to have a whole lot of pregnant does running around TKK. And although I'm an advocate for taking the 80 out that we can take, because that translates to about 240 next spring with the fawns that they're going to drop. If 80 does drop 2 fawns each, man, we're 1,200-1,400 next year. So that concerns me tremendously. So I don't want us to do nothing this season, but I would say, I would implore our council to watch this closely with staff, and if we can get the approvals that we need, it'd be my recommendation, if we do not cull this year, that we wait until we can get our biggest bang for a buck with the darting. Because if we dart a bunch of pregnant does, we've wasted a year on every doe we shoot.
but in that, it's gonna take the bucks to get, a little while to get to everybody. I mean, just gonna be honest with you, it's gonna take them a while.
Do you remember high school?
So
If it's a
if we get
2-to-1
couple of
ratio,
weeks-
did you go to college?
Chris, you remember high school?
I remember high school. Yeah, I went to college too.
Just-
Took a while.
Sorry.
But, no, what I'm saying is if this were to come back in a couple of weeks, to say, hey, all right, we can do this, here's the contractors.
I'm okay with a couple months.
If we
really
got
am.
it back in a couple of weeks and we started then we start decreasing the numbers and the effectiveness of our bucks by a long shot. If we could get it back in a couple of weeks and go ahead and start initiating that program.
How do we decrease the bucks?
Now I'm saying that we decrease the effectiveness of the bucks because we're already making that,
Yeah.
we're flattening the curve.
Get it, right? Right. You had to say that.
Yeah, I did.
So do you think, Charlie, if I may, and I don't want to hold you to this, but in your estimation, do you think in the next few weeks that we're waiting for Clemson's approval, do you think we'll have more accurate numbers on what the economics look like on this PCP process?
I would say
To
within the
train and hire
next
darters?
4 weeks, yes.
Okay. So maybe by next council meeting, we might have a more informed discussion?
We will shoot for before that, but we can definitely make it as a goal to bring all that information to you by the November meeting at the latest.
Fair enough.
But I know our friends with the Conservation Society are working very, very diligently on it, which has been fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I admitted to them, and I'll go ahead and admit to the public, the first time they got up, I thought they were saying, give the deer PCP, and I was very confused as to why
That's a lot
that would be a
different
good thing.
Yeah.
But they've done a lot of educational work, and I appreciate their time. But based on recent email with Alicia, yeah, I think we're getting close to at least having, maybe not all the answers, but at least having a better time frame as to when we're going to have those answers. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Do we have any further discussion, gentlemen?
So, Mayor, just to make sure we're clear, staff is going to stand down at this point on any culling activities. And moving forward with that, we're going to hang tight, see what info we can get back on all the PZP questions, and then at the latest, bring that back to you at your November council meeting.
Thank you.
Is that fair?
Sound good?
Fair.
Cool. Thank you very much.
I just think it's awesome that you guys were able to bring this to all of our attention. And the process from the first time it's mentioned till now, it's a huge win. And so, thank you guys for stepping up, bringing information, educating all of us. Because we've learned a lot, including staff, over the last couple of months. So thank you guys for being great citizens.
Thank you very much. Anything further, guys? So, Charlie, do we need to? Okay. Good. Good. Okay, and with that, we'll cover public comments. And as always, please state your name and your address. And the first up would be Mr. Norm Snyder.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Norm Snyder, 1898 Larkspur Way. I've always been a very strong public safety advocate. The few times that I've spoke to the council have been on public safety issues in support of initiatives and funding in the public safety arena. I'm also a common sense guy, and I'm staring at the mayor, and over his head is the seal of the city of TUK. And even though we're chartered as a city of TUK, we're a small town. We've always been a small town. We always will be a small town because we're running out of areas to annex, filling in those donut holes, which is a good thing. But we're not going to grow a whole lot more than we're already at. Most people that live here are here because they enjoy the benefits of a small town. We're the city of TUK. We're not New York City. We're not Chicago. We're not Baltimore. We're not even Myrtle Beach. And exactly. We don't have large gatherings and sporting events that draw, 100,000 people. We don't have bike rallies. We don't have concerts that draw people from all over the country and last for a week. Like I said, we're a small town. We have our own events. And this past Saturday, we had the Catawba Fest, which grew out of the original fall festival that we had right out here in this parking lot. People would walk up, they'd drive the golf carts up, park the golf carts on the grass. Everybody walk in, they'd go through the exhibits, listen to music, watch the kids' costume parade, and it was a good time by all. Same thing for the concerts. We used to have a couple of them a year at Rundy Park, and they expanded. We get more and more. People, again, drove the golf carts down. They sat up in the golf carts over top of looking over the baseball fields. People walk down to the food trucks, walk down, socialize with friends, walk back up their golf carts, sit around. And it was a family atmosphere that's always going well. I think when we got to the point of wanting people coming in to an event such as a Catawba Fest, which is our fall festival, we've gone a little bit over the top. There are a lot of upset people. A lot of people were very offended by having to walk in through an access point. We're not used to that. We're used to being small town people. So if you take a few plainclothes police officers with trained eyes, they're going to sort out and find and sniff out the nefarious activity, whether it be an individual or a group of individuals. They're going to find them because they're trained officers, and we have well-trained officers in TK. And the advantage of being in plain clothes gives the police the advantage over the criminals because they don't know who you are, and you're sniffing them out. So I think it was a poor decision. I'm not really against prohibiting handguns or any weapons from a specified event. It's in the law. I'm not really against that. But when you get to the point where you're wanting the citizens, I've heard reports of a kid had to dump out his water, and you're hiring an outside security agency, but I'm not really thrilled about security officers anyway. I'd rather rely on our own police officers to protect us. It's an extra expense, and I believe it's completely unnecessary. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Adam Grabiak.
Adam Brabick, 4091 Whittier Lane. I'm here to speak about the Lakewood annexation. Planning Commission recommended to council to rezone it R13 in lieu of the R8 in a 5-to-1 vote, and it seems to have been completely ignored by council, not even compromising to R10. Moreover, 3 of you in particular stood in people's living rooms during your campaign and made a commitment that you wouldn't approve more housing developments. If you don't at least reduce the density of this development to R13, you will have broken your word. It's only a 25 home reduction, but as a result, there will be less traffic, less demand on our local schools, but more long-term tax revenue since the homes will be more expensive at R13. If you need proof it can be done, just look at Wisteria. I know there may be some concern about the extreme nature of that, but this downsizing or this rezoning to R13 would be much less drastic. Being in the architecture and real estate industry, I've spoken to many that agree that having $1 million homes on 8,000 square foot lots doesn't make sense except for the developers. You can tell the taxpayers and yourselves, for that matter, whatever you want to justify R8, but it really just boils down to honoring your commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Miss Liz Duda.
Good evening, Liz Duda, 1081 Palmyra Drive. I'm just following up from last month. I wanted to see if you guys had a chance to think about the three issues that I brought up last month, which was, the first one was what's resulting from the violation of the communications policy when Councilmember Shirley misrepresented City Council and said that he was representing you at the York County Council meeting. So what will you do about a violation of the communication policy? What is your follow-up? That was my first question. Okay, so I would welcome a follow-up to that. That's my first comment. Second comment, if the reason that the city manager contract was renegotiated early was because it was no longer valid, how come you can have the new contract in place that will once again be invalidated when council turns over? So that was a legal question that's outstanding from last month. The third one is the RFATS Policy Committee meeting. I was able to speak at the RFATS committee and again request that they start live streaming the meetings. Councilmember Heislip did nod, so thank you for the support from that. If you have any other follow-ups, that would be fabulous. And then the last one, a public service announcement, a reminder that these are nonpartisan city council seats. So I welcome people who are running to act in a nonpartisan manner and for it to remain nonpartisan. I think the partisanship divides us, so I encourage people, the community, to remember that these are nonpartisan council seats that we will be voting for on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Paige Haworth.
Hi, I'm Paige Howarth, 26006 Morningside Drive, TK. I basically live in the Cove area down near the marina, and there's been rumors or information circulating recently about a hotel that's in the works for the marina area for that district. And while I've reached out, and I realize you guys haven't gotten any plans on that yet, but it seems like some things are kind of working behind the scenes. It seems like TK has traded some of Marina Drive for potential use of sidewalk on TK Drive in the future. And it also, the owner has requested from the Planning Commission that the zoning for a hotel in that area be extended from a 60 or 65 capacity hotel or room capacity to 100 capacity hotel. And as someone who lives in that vicinity, and that's a predominantly residential area, and we are super concerned about this and just wanted to try to get ahead of the game a little bit. I understand a hotel might be within the rights of that zoning district in the marina zoning, but so I don't know. I don't have enough knowledge about that to know if there's a workaround around that at all or anything we could do as citizens. But I do know, and I do ask, as far as the request that has been made to expand the zoning from I don't know if it's zoning or what, from 65, a 65-room hotel is the max right now that is allowable in that marina area. And they've requested 100 rooms, and that's basically doubling the size of a hotel. If we're stuck and we're going to get a hotel and we have no choice, we're getting a hotel in TK in that area, I would remind everyone to just remember that doubles the construction, it doubles traffic, it doubles annoyance, it doubles duration of construction, it doubles strangers coming into our town to go to this bigger hotel, or any hotel for that matter. It doubles speeders coming into TK Drive. It doubles drivers who don't understand our crosswalk situation, which is a little confusing. It doubles cars. The difficulties cars have pulling in and out of their neighborhoods during rush hours trying to get on TK Drive. It doubles the noise more than anything. Those of us who live in that area, if you've been on water, I can hear conversations on boats in the middle of the lake because noise travels so much on water. So for those of us in the near proximity, and then even further beyond the local proximity, we're going to hear all that noise from a hotel or whatever is going on. We have a right as residents for a peaceful enjoyment of our properties. And so I ask you guys, as this is coming to the forefront and I can see things are working behind the scenes and this is what's coming going to come to you guys if you don't know of it yet, and I assume you might. Please keep residents in mind. We have a right to peaceful enjoyment of our homes, and I'm really concerned about the traffic and the just double the impact of everything. And if we don't have a choice, please keep that hotel as absolutely small as it can possibly be. Thank you.
Thank you, Paige. And that concludes public comments. So our next item is the approval of minutes. Gentlemen, do we have any additions, subtractions, deletions, discussions?
Just one point of discussion, if I may, and Charlie, you may be reserving this for city manager comments, but is there a follow-up that we could get on the decision that we made to defer the vehicle removal from last month? The one at, I'm trying to think of the address,
That's been,
4106.
that issue's been handled.
Thank you.
All taken care of, all good.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
sir.
Because that was before us for a vote, and we deferred that, and I just wanted to.
That's correct. She came into City Hall, she's got all the documentation.
Great.
Got everything taken care of, so we're in good shape there.
Thank you very much. Nothing further.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Motion to
members,
approve minutes as presented?
You got a first? Do I have a second?
second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved unanimously. Okay, and that will bring us to our committee reports. And as always, Councilman Machunas, would you please take it away, sir?
All right. The EDC met, had a quorum. The first topic of discussion was the TKK Business Connect meeting that occurred on September 13th. It was a small meeting, but it was a good meeting. Takeaways were, overall, it was a great event. Hoping to be consistent with it so you get more attendance and interaction from local businesses on the next one. This was just the first one, and it was very successful. The chamber came, spoke, and what they did speak about was very informative. The issue came up that they'd like to have them come back next time, but share more details on their programming and what they can actually do to help the business as opposed to the structure and the personnel and that kind of thing. A survey was sent out to everyone, all of the businesses, the participants of that survey will go into a drawing to win a golf outing. And they're going to get our media person, Gretchen, to start picking the business spotlights from those that attend the event. And that was about it.
Thank you, sir. Planning Commission, Councilman Shirley, please, sir.
Yes, sir. There was a planning commission meeting on October 2nd. There was a quorum. There was one member from the public attended and commented. There was a pretty spirited discussion around the potential change to the Marina District from a hotel from 60-ish to 100-ish hotel units. There was an approval of the previously deferred minutes from the August meeting. Once adjustments were made there, they also approved the minutes from the September meeting. Discussion around a potential amendment to the zoning code for mobile food vending services. There's a very good, intelligent, well-thought-out discussion by Planning Commission. They are very engaged. I'm very pleased with the members of Planning Commission. They ask a lot of questions, and Nick, our staff liaison to the Planning Commission, has done, in my mind, a tremendous job of preparation and guiding the Planning Commission through those meetings. There was also some discussion about final plat approval for Wendell Woods. And one comment that I wanted to make, one of the members of Planning Commission that's been on Planning Commission for quite some time, Nick Amico, is deployed with I believe with either the National Guard or the Army Reserve, and he's been deployed for almost an entire year. Nick Amico, in his deployment, has not missed a single Planning Commission meeting by phone virtually. The loyalty and faithfulness that guy has given to the Planning Commission is an example of his service to the country. And he's not here to hear that, but I wanted to make sure that I said that publicly.
Thank you, Councilman Shirley. I do agree. TK Forever?
Thank you,
Pro
Mr.
Tem
Mayor.
Hassel.
I would like to ask TK Forever Foundation Chairwoman Heather Jones to give the report this month.
Thank you, Councilmember Heislip. And thank you, Council, for letting me speak tonight. As you introduced, my name is Heather Jones. I'm the current chair of TKK Forever, and I was appointed to the board this past April and stepped into the role of chair in August. TKK Forever is unique among the city committees in that it is both a citizen staffed and run committee as well as a registered 501c3 nonprofit. The mission of which is to enhance the quality of life in the city of TKK by promoting and providing parks, open space, and community events for citizens of all ages to strengthen and unite the community. This mission is achieved specifically through fundraising and endowment of capital projects. I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with Catawba Park at this point, it being the big one in the recent history, as well as educational, recreational, and cultural community initiatives and events with the oversight of the citizen-led board, adhering to the group's bylaws as developed at its incorporation in 2017. Unfortunately, I am here tonight to share that following an email-based vote on October 4th, which was initiated after discussion by the board at our September 25th meeting, which had a quorum, and in compliance with the group's bylaws, the board has voted to dissolve the operations of TKK Forever. And I know this might come as a shock, and we wanted to present on that to sort of explain to the public what's going on in the council and get everybody sort of in the loop. From our 8 voting members, the results were 6 votes in favor of dissolution and 2 abstentions. And we wanted to report not just the results of the vote, but explain the reasons this vote came to be in the first place for the sake of transparency with the residents of TKK, as the board now enters what is referred to as a winding up period, which will complete the dissolution by the end of 2023 is our goal, so that we can keep everything on the calendar year to prevent any sort of loose ends going into 2024. When the new board members stepped up this past several months ago and began to familiarize ourselves fully with the history and operations of TKK Forever, several key points clearly came out in our meetings. The first is that TKK Forever has struggled with making quorum and maintaining board engagement very much since its inception, and we had this from staff members and people who've been with it consistently. This is a significant problem for a nonprofit, for those who are unfamiliar with how nonprofits operate, especially since the bylaws pertaining to fundraising and distribution of funds require quorums for votes to approve any activities that the board undertakes, as well as things like dual signatures on checks to release funds and having that oversight. Between the issues with maintaining appointments to the board and challenges to operations brought about by the pandemic, TKK Forever has been increasingly unable to operate following its own bylaws, and fundraising has been non-existent for a significant period of time. Because of this, restarting the group with our new board in the coming 2024 fiscal year would be the equivalent of starting out as a brand new nonprofit with a near $0 balance in our accounts, which anybody who's worked in the nonprofit sector will tell you is no small undertaking. Just to cover basic operations, the annual audit, things like that. And what funds are in the current accounts are earmarked for final payments on Catawba Park obligations. In light of this, the board felt that it was important to look at the state of the foundation with a very critical eye. Continuing operations as usual was ruled out, especially after discussions with the city regarding the challenges I've just mentioned, which made it clear that the current structure has some significant flaws and was neither sustainable nor desired. This led the board to then look at our next 2 options, to either separate TKK Forever from the city and so that it would become a standalone nonprofit, or to dissolve the nonprofit. Under the first option, TKK Forever would have maintained its main mission to support city improvements, but no longer operate under the umbrella of the city for things like board appointments through the council, or having staff liaisons be voting members on the board. Additionally, all accounts and records that were currently connected to the city would have been fully transferred over to the current board members. But after assessing current regional nonprofit saturation, the funding climate in the current economy of the local area, and discussing the logistics of operations, the board felt that TKK Forever would still be at a very high risk of lapsing back to the same issues that it's currently faced by in terms of engagement operations, and that we would not necessarily be able to correct those and still face the issue of dissolution within a year or 2, if not sooner than that. This was what prompted the vote regarding dissolution of the nonprofit. Now that the board has initiated this vote and taken it and it's official, to start dissolution of TKK Forever as a 501c3 nonprofit, there are a specific set of guidelines that we will be following in order to formalize this final step. And I apologize in advance, this is going to be a little bit wordy, but I really feel it's important that everybody understands what's involved, because the board members put a lot of work into helping me research this to make sure it's done right. First, pursuant to South Carolina Code 3331-1403, 33-31-1403, just to be accurate there, which addresses specifically the dissolution of nonprofits and their operations. The Board of TKK Forever will be creating and submitting an official plan of dissolution to the South Carolina State Attorney General's office. This packet will require us to report the amount and type of assets in possession of the corporation currently and in the past 6 months, information about any significant transactions in the last 6 months, any transactions involving officers or members of the corporation during that time frame, and whether there are any restrictions on those assets. We are also required to submit a copy of our articles of incorporation, specifically those which point out the provisions for transfer of assets. In the case of TKK Forever, Article 10 of our bylaws indicates that once we've met all existing financial obligations, any remaining funds will be transferred in full to the city of TKK. Sorry, I lost my spot here. And then this will allow for the closure of any financial accounts as part of that dissolution, so that they're not remaining. Finally, we will need to submit a copy of the minutes where we approved the dissolution, as well as discussing the transfer of assets, which will be happening at our next meeting to create that official set of minutes that will go into that packet. Once we've submitted this packet to the State Attorney General, we are required within 20 days to forward a copy of it to the South Carolina Secretary of State, along with their specific form for the Articles of Dissolution. And then we will be working with the City Finance Director, Bob, to submit our final IRS 990 form with a completed Schedule N, which is for the liquidation or termination of a group that has nonprofit standing with the IRS, as well as then sending them the same packet I've discussed earlier, so they as well have a copy of it. And we greatly appreciate that the city has been very receptive, and the staff members and everybody we've spoken to when we've been discussing the options, so that we can make sure this is all done correctly, and that we can ensure that any records that need to be retained, we know how long they need to be retained, what needs to be retained, and that everybody's on the same page moving forward with this. I know that I speak not just for myself, but the board, in expressing that this was not the outcome we expected or hoped for when we applied and were appointed to the board of TKK Forever. Our first meeting was about Catawba's done. Let's talk about dog parks. Let's talk about a skate park. Let's talk about pickleball courts. Let's talk about all the things that we can do to make our city better. And it was a really hard splash of cold water as we started to really dig in and look at operations to say, well, can we do that? To go, we can't. That said, sometimes the hard choice is the correct one, and I have a great deal of respect for the fellow board members, and especially the staff liaisons who've been on this through multiple boards, for not shying away from what have been a very difficult set of discussions and a very difficult decision and vote. It saddens me that the city is losing the benefit of a nonprofit for future endeavors and opportunities for citizen engagement through TKK Forever. But I do want to note that they does have the legacy of Catawba Park, and that is a wonderful legacy, and it is very much the result of hard work by the former boards and the staff members in the city during its history since its inception in 2017. If anybody has any questions for me during the winding up process, I am very much accessible via email. I believe that should be on the TKK Forever website. If not, Councilmember Heislip, please feel free to direct anybody to me that reaches out to you as our council liaison. And our next meeting will be next Monday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. in the large meeting room just across the hall here in the Glennon Center. So if anyone wishes to attend during our final meetings as we complete this process, we welcome that public input and being involved in that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Heather, how long have you lived in TKK?
We moved here just a little over a year ago.
You hear that, folks? This is somebody that's embraced this role with professionalism, grace, enthusiasm, and a tremendous commitment to that process. And I really commend you for it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service.
And Councilman, I would like to iterate as well. There are several members of that board that are newer members of the TKK family. And we appreciate everything that you guys did for us, and we appreciate the hard work that went into it. Thank you very much for that. Okay, and with that, we have a little unfinished business to do. We have a second reading of an ordinance to annex by 100% petition method and incorporate within the city limits of the city of TK approximately 22.64 acres. Tax map numbers 642-00-00-036 to 642-00-00-034 to 642-00-00-027 and 642-00-00-028 from RUD in the county to PUD R8. This is the second and final reading of an ordinance to annex into the city approximately 22.6 acres at the intersection of Dam Road and New Gray Rock to allow for approximately 66 homes and an amenity center. The lot sizes would be approximately 9,000 square feet on average, with homes projected to start at the $1 million mark. Additionally, the developer would install a sidewalk along Dam Road for the length of their property, which would tie into current sidewalk at the intersection of Coral Bell and Lake Ridge.
Mr. Mayor and members of council. Oh, Lord, I missed it.
Make sure you get on them zeros.
If you could just do the last three numbers.
I did,
after
I
the
started
first
it.
eight.
Can-
Are you
can
using
we
the
just do
mayor's
last one?
computer?
Yeah, you could do.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we pass second read of the ordinance to annex 100% of, I'm on the wrong spot here, I do apologize.
I'll finish it for you. Petition method and incorporate within the city limits of the city of TK approximately plus or minus 22.64 4 acres with tax map numbers 642-00-00. And we're going to repeat that 4 more times. 036, 034, 027, and 028 from RUD in the county to PUD R8. Does that work? Hey, how about a second? What's that?
Ryan is.
I am, and Gus is going to second it because I saved him.
I second it.
Now, I did want to have a little discussion on this.
Thank you.
With the rezoning to, we're at R8, so if we went to 13, we'd have bigger lots. Now, with that, the boundaries are 22.64 acres. So in that, if we have the lots in there and we make bigger lots, where does that property come from that we make the lots bigger with? Does it come from the amenity that's going to be there for the residents? Does it come from the green space? I mean, where does that come from?
Doesn't,
I mean-
it's just different utilization of the space.
Yep, but I
Right,
mean.
I think what you're saying is it takes away from the
Takes
amenities
away
in the
from
green
the
space.
amenities, it takes away from the green space that we request, we want the trees, we want to have a bigger green space. The amenity that's there, I think that folks, if they're gonna spend $1 million on a house, they deserve a nice amenity complex to where they can appreciate it and they can take their kids, just like we did at the beach club or at Lake Ridge with the pool over there. We like, it's a nice pool, it's a nice clubhouse, a nice facility. I think those folks need to have a nice facility as well. Now, granted, the facility at Lake Ridge was designed originally for houses that are $1 million plus. And, it's a great facility. So with us, if we're gonna go with a different zoning and make it to where those lots have to be bigger, I mean, then we're just taking away the space that we're already asking for in the first place. I mean, am I wrong in saying that?
I don't disagree.
Paul, would you like to address that statement? Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, thanks. Yeah, obviously, giving up, I mean, there's a fine balance between trying to provide enough tree save, enough common open space, sidewalks, new walks along Dam Road, amenity centers, and though, as we get into outer areas from Charlotte and things like that, and people say, I want the big yard, I want this, I want that. It hasn't rung true as development has become a little more intense. Cost of developing, cost of housing, cost of things. People have wanted community areas, things to be at with their friends and neighbors, and less to take care of. People have crazy schedules. They're at soccer and baseball and gymnastics and work and all these things every part of their day. They're looking for a community center, a place to be with their family and friends, and we've seen it to prove to be a good solution for communities at all prices as they get bigger in size. And there aren't too many amenity-driven neighborhoods in here. And I know when we talk with planning, they talked about, can we be bigger lots? I think we really have a calling for $2 million plus homes. And there's no data in MLS or the area to show that. There's been a couple of houses that have sold, I believe, in the Wisteria that have taken some time, and some that have been on the market for a couple of years. And that's not a way to build a business. And we understand that we're trying to do a good thing for the town, a good thing for housing, and a good thing to serve needs of new people for TKK. And also, we do have to sell homes. We have to move them and move people in. So there's a lot of pieces that go to that puzzle.
Paul, how many houses would you say that your company's built?
We've got about 1,500 doors that we're working on right now.
I mean, just a ballpark figure, the past operating, how many homes have you built?
I've been part of thousands of transactions.
So you'd say you're pretty good at what you do?
We're dedicated to it.
That's hundreds of thousands of rooftops, probably.
So the reason I'm asking that question is I tend to go with folks that know what they're doing. And I would say that you probably know what you're doing. If you've built and sold and or have managed to get through the Great Recession and all that good stuff, I'd say you probably know what you're doing.
Yeah, it is my 23rd year in the business, so there's been some ups and downs.
Okay. Yeah, there has been ups and downs, but you guys made it through it.
Yeah, that's right.
So my statement was correct in what I was saying. People want a bigger amenity center. They want a bigger green space. They don't want to mow all of that grass.
Yeah, they want a community. I mean, and it's, walkability and front porches and people to meet, people to see, and not just, so I think that's been a great turn. And it used to be the way things were developed before the recession. There was a lot more community atmosphere kind of pieces like that. And then it got tapered down when money left and changed. And now that there's a balance back where there's equity and good balance, and things are expensive, but, amenity centers have proven well on good communities.
Guys, do you have any questions for Paul?
I have a comment, if I may.
Okay.
Paul, thanks for being a target and
Yes,
standing
sir.
up here without notice and sharing that with
That's
us. I
all right.
appreciate it. Paul, you've been a great partner for us. And for those of you that don't know who Paul is, that are here, or maybe watching tonight or later on, Paul Sagaden is part of the Kinger Group that is helping develop our Main Street project. And they're doing a really fine job, and I'm very proud of that project. And I know we'll all be proud of it and really enjoy it. And you don't have to stand there for this. You
Yeah,
can take your seat if
and
you
one
want.
quick thing with that note is we really take into consideration what we're doing. Like with these projects, I'll personally be working here for the next decade. So when we talk about getting involved, we're not trying to just do something and leave. I mean, we really have 10 years of construction development pride to put in front of ourselves with what we're doing here in TKK.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
The one thing that I will add to this for the benefit of the residents that are here and those that care to know this, and I'm just going to share this because I think this is important before we take this vote, because this is an important vote to me. It's an important vote to our city, and I know it's important to my colleagues here at council. Pretty smart guy, a lot smarter than me, that's been doing this a lot longer than me, shared with me shortly after I was elected to this position that if you look at our city budget and you look at what residential tax revenue generates for our city budget, it's about 60% of our total revenue. So what that means is that for every tax dollar we collect, it costs the city $1.4 in services. So for the tax dollars we're going to collect on this project, ordinarily, at the average cost of a home, when that calculation was made, it would cost us more than we're going to generate in tax revenue. That concerns me when we put that kind of pressure on the chief of police and the chief of fire and all of the good men and women that work for those organizations and our other services in the city. And I started this conversation to say what a great partner Paul and his team have been, because I admire them tremendously and what they're doing for us, for the city, and how they're going to sustain tax revenue for us
with a commercial project that'll come in with Main Street. But I ran my campaign on smart growth, and I don't think this is smart growth. I think for us to put more housing in, even if it's $1 million home, $1.5 million home, maybe that balance of $1.4 in services to every dollar in residential tax we collect goes down to 1.2, 1.1. We're still underwater. In my opinion, this is for the benefit of impact fees and things like that that we'll get out of this. This is a long-term loser, and I'm not behind it.
All right, I'll jump in and say everything you said makes absolutely no sense. The numbers you used were pre-impact fee numbers. The 1.4 and all of that was prior to the passing of impact fees, and that changes the math.
Look at the
that you're
budget now.
discussing.
Look at the budget on what
I'm just
residential
saying the
tax
numbers you
revenue
used
generates.
to state your case is false. It's changed since the,
What's the percentage of residential tax revenue to the budget?
I don't have that answer for you. I'm
I
saying
do,
the numbers you used
60%.
specifically is false.
It may be 60%, but I don't, that your math doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think it makes sense to the city manager or
Okay, give me the
anyone
data
else.
that makes sense.
I don't
It's
know
not the
that
false
data.
narrative that you just created. I know that's not the data.
You can look at the.
Go ahead and dispute that with data.
If you look at the unfinished business 6A line on the agenda, the approximate tax revenue is $235,900. There's no way 60 homes are going to cost the city $235,000 in services. 60 homes, you're not going to have daily police calls there. You're not going to have public works and public utilities out there daily. That's a significant tax revenue. I know the number you're speaking of, and I've heard that myself, but I believe that is looking at at the time, this is a, study that was done years ago, at least 3 years ago. If the average home was $350,000, that may be true. These are, let's just go with $1 million homes. It's 3 times as much. If you do the math and the calculations, you're probably down to 50% of the cost. So if for every dollar they pay, it costs the city 50%, 50 cents would be a ballpark based on, just on the annual tax revenue approximation. And I respect what you're saying. I get it. And, like you said too, I mean, smart growth to me is everybody knows, or if you don't know, you should be paying attention. Long-term, as growth stops, impact fees go away, and they're paying a lot of our budget, a lot of our debt, and we need to be smart about the growth we have. And if these numbers are correct, and the city brings in $235,000 in annual tax revenue with only 60 homes, that's a significant addition to our budget overall. And I'm not just doing it for numbers. We got a great partner. We know they're going to do a good build, and some waterfront homes. And it's 60 homes. This isn't a 500 home development they're putting in. It's 60 homes that I think are really going to increase the property value of everything around there. So that's my rebuttal of why I think this is smart growth.
I respect all you guys up here and your opinion. I just wanted to share with you where my heart is on this.
No, and we all respect yours. And I know that you've made some promises during your campaign, but, you asked for data, and Tom just gave you data. So I think you're using some old math.
I'd like to weigh in because I was one of those 3 that ran on smart growth, not no growth. And to me, bringing $1 million homes into TGK and keeping those spec houses that are $150,000 away from $500,000 to $600,000 houses is pretty smart. I'd also like to say that if we don't do this, that remains barren land there. We're not going to be generating any money from it whatsoever, the longer it sits. And the person it belongs to really doesn't care if it sits there forever. So with that, we got $1 million homes, 66 houses in total, $234,000 in annual tax revenue, $8,800 in annual storm revenue, $150,000 in impact fee revenue for TCUD. $523,000 impact fee revenue that we need to have in order to sustain this city, in order to get Main Street going and to get our commercial sector generated. We've got to have these impact fees. That's going to be the highest impact fees that we can have with $1 million homes.
And to continue no tax increases.
Yeah,
We've
and
done forever.
we can probably say next year that we didn't raise taxes for the 15th year in a row.
I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that Main Street's going to do that for us.
I
It's
know,
going to
but
put
we-
us in a
we gotta-
position where we don't have to raise taxes.
Yeah, you're right, and absolutely, that's what we're shooting for.
Right.
But in the meantime, we got to sustain what we've got going. And there's a lot of things that can happen, you know? So,
Well, let's not waste people's time. Let's go ahead and move forward with the vote.
we got a motion in a second. And so all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Nay.
Let the record show Councilman Shirley was the nay. All right. Next order of business is a second reading of an ordinance to adopt the latest standardized business license class schedule in accordance with the State Standardization Act. This is the second final reading of an ordinance to comply with Act Number 176, the South Carolina Business License Tax Standardization Act, which requires that every odd year, each municipality levying a business tax must adopt by ordinance the latest standardized business license class schedule. Gentlemen, do we have any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to move a motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance to adopt the latest standardized business license class schedule in accordance with the State Standardization Act.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. A little more unfinished business. We have a second reading of an ordinance entering into the State of South Carolina statewide mutual aid agreement for emergency and disaster response and recovery. This is the second and final reading of an ordinance which allows the city to request and provide mutual aid assistance in the event of emergencies. These emergencies can include natural, man-made, and technological disasters that may cause severe disruption. Gentlemen, do you have any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance entering into the State of South Carolina statewide mutual aid agreement for emergency and disaster response recovery.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. A little new business here. We have a consideration of the performance, labor, and materials surety agreement and letter of credit for Phase 1, Map 1 for Wendell Woods. Shea Holmes has requested to move forward with their final plat for Phase 1, Map 1 of Wendell Woods. In order to do this, they have requested to enter into a PLM surety agreement with the city, along with a letter of credit for the remaining infrastructure contained in Phase 1, Map 1 plat. The infrastructure includes the asphalt for the roads in that section, along with the sidewalks and street trees. The Map 1 section of Phase 1 is on the west side of Gardendale Road and contains single-family detached homes only.
Mr. Mayor, just real quickly, just as a point of clarification, it's the top lift of asphalt. They've already got the base course down.
Yep.
So,
So we're going to get rid of the speed bumps.
out there on Gardendale Road,
Yeah.
that should be forthcoming pretty soon. Yes, sir.
That'd be a good thing.
Be a very good thing. Mr. Mayor and members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the performance, labor, and materials surety agreement and letter of credit for Phase 1, Map 1, Wendell Woods, contingent upon the city attorney's review and approval of the letter of credit.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Yep.
I need a drum roll. This is some new business.
This
that,
is what you've all waited for.
It's pretty exciting. This is the introduction and first reading
Don't
of an
leave yet.
ordinance.
We didn't pass the offering plate.
This is the introduction and first reading of an ordinance establishing a broadband service franchise agreement. Since the city's inception, there has only been one internet provider, as there has only ever been one company to make the investment of installing the necessary infrastructure in our city. That is until now.
That's right.
With the passage of this ordinance, the city will be entering into the necessary franchise agreements with Google Fiber, which will allow them to begin installing the infrastructure necessary to provide broadband internet to our residents and businesses. It is our understanding that they are planning to begin work as early as next month, once the ordinance has been fully adopted. We are excited that our residents and businesses will soon have a choice for their broadband internet needs, and TGK will be the first city in South Carolina to have Google Fiber.
We definitely expected a
About
standing
that.
ovation on that one.
And that was something that we ran on too, ladies and gentlemen. So, gentlemen,
I'll jump on this one. Motion to
Yes, sir.
approve the introduction and first reading of an ordinance establishing a broadband services franchise agreement with Google Fiber.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Yes, please.
Aye.
Can we discuss this?
Oh, let's discuss it. We can still discuss it for a minute. I mean, I
We've
just
been
wanna-
discussing it for years.
Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Charlie and Bob for their hard work on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd
no
like
doubt.
to really, my hats
Google's
off
not
you
easy to
guys.
negotiate with, in case you guys were wondering.
It's been a battle, and I really appreciate, Bob, your expertise on it, and Charlie, appreciate your expertise on it, and the legwork, because there was a lot of legwork, so we really appreciate. Joey, thanks for what you've done on that as well. So appreciate it, guys. That's a big step for us, and it gives the folks of TGK the option to have a good broadband service brought into TGK, and it is fiber. It's not coax, so it's going to be a lot faster. So that's a great thing for us.
That's awesome.
So.
And I think one thing to not overlook too is, as Google Fiber's built out in the city, a lot of businesses are looking for fiber to their business. So it can significantly help Main Street, potentially other developments in the area for business. And if you're not familiar with Google Fiber, go to their website and check out the offerings from prices. I just read they're gonna be rolling out 20 gigabyte download speeds. I don't know who would ever need that, but it's there. So, yeah, crazy.
Great job, team. That's really well done.
You got anything else, Councilman?
No,
You sure?
I'm waiting on this one.
I'm looking at that smile. I don't think we're gonna be able to get off with steel wire brush. Okay, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to Councilman Machunas, if you would, please, sir.
So the next item of new business is a consideration of approving capital funds in Parks and Recreation as it relates to a public artwork project. In 2020, City Council approved Resolution 2020-01, which established the City of TGK's Public Art and Monuments Policy. Now, this council has the opportunity to commission Scott Griffin, a local artist, to develop a sculpture of the city's logo. The sculpture would be constructed within the roundabout at Stonecrest Drive and is estimated to be approximately 8 feet tall. Mr. Griffin designed a 3D rendering of the sculpture, which is available for your public viewing this evening, right down there. Council is considering approving the use of capital funds to enhance the roundabout with this sculpture. We really, the discussion part, we really haven't had the opportunity to do anything with this public art project that we put in. And we started talking about some things, and when we were doing the budget, there were some funds put aside for something that the majority of council thought might not be best. So then it was like, okay, well, the money's in the budget. And I thought about that roundabout, because I would believe I'm correct. Stonecrest is the second most traveled road in TGK. And it's the entrance and exit of that side of TGK. So, I mean, and we've got Main Street coming in, some other good things. A roundabout, it looks nice. I mean, it's landscaped, and we got lots of things. Well, Mr. Griffin used to coach my son in baseball, and he's a very, very talented artist, and he just loves what he does. He's very good at what he does. And we talked about it, and we discussed doing the logo. And if you see the way he's got that thing set up, as you drive around the roundabout, it's a 3D sculpture of our logo. What better way to welcome people to TKK than to see our logo 3D? As you go around it, you're still seeing the same thing. It'll be backlit. So I was really excited about the project. He's coming in with a good price, and he's ready to start as soon as we approve it. So with that, if anybody'd like to discuss, please do, or if somebody would like to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the capital funds from the Parks and Recreation budget in an amount not to exceed $10,000 for public art in the traffic circle at Hubert Graham and Stonecrest.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes
Can't
unanimously.
believe you didn't let Councilman Mashunas make that motion.
He got the second.
He did.
I mean, and he got to introduce it.
He got to
I
read
got to
it.
introduce
I
it.
didn't want to put a load on
It's a
council.
little too much for the old
It's like,
boy.
if you're
huh?
gonna step on my feet, I'm gonna step on yours a little. It's just a little give take.
And with that, that brings us to our city manager report. Mr.
Thank you,
Funderburk,
Mr.
if
Mayor.
would,
Members-
please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Catawba Fest this past weekend was another great success. It was well attended, as always, with several of the food truck vendors completely running out of stuff to sell. Big thank you to all of our staff from Parks and Recreation, Public Safety, and Public Works who helped make it an enjoyable event. Hopefully next year the weather will cooperate with us a little bit better and we'll get some sunshine. But all in all, it was a very successful event. Election season is in full swing. Absentee by mail applications must be returned by October 27th at 5 p.m. Early voting can be done at the York County Government Center over in York, Monday, October 23rd through November 3rd, between 8:30 and 5, Monday through Friday, and Election Day is November the 7th. On Wednesday, October 25th, the York County Regional Chamber of Commerce will be hosting the TKK Council Candidates Forum at 6:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. Again, that's October 25th. That will be next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. We will be streaming it live on the city's YouTube channel, and we'll have it posted to our website afterwards for those that are not able to attend. And that concludes my report this evening. Yes, sir, Scott?
So that's open to the public this year?
Yes, sir. It is open to the public. There is obviously a seating capacity in the room, so, but the public is welcome to attend. The chamber is developing a list of questions that they'll ask the candidates. It's my understanding they're going to run it in the same format as they have done prior forums.
That's next Wednesday at 6:30?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funderburk.
Yes, sir.
And with that, brings us to council comments. And as always, I would like to start with Councilman Richard.
I'll be quick, guys. As usual, thanks to city staff, fire, police, everyone in the background that gets things done for the city. You guys really do a phenomenal job. And Tom, you may have heard this just with your military background. They say there's two things that matter, and it's perception and perspective. All of us as humans, we all perceive ourselves. We're all the star of our own movie. Self-preservation, hell, it wasn't 2 years ago we were waking up wondering, how are we going to stay alive tomorrow? Today we don't have that problem, for most of us at least. But the perception we have of ourselves is often paramount in our lives. It's human nature. It's the pink matter between our brains. It requires us to think that way. So perspective, the other side of it, a lot of times is much narrower with the human race because we can't always see past our perceived person, the perception that we have of ourselves and what we need to be. And so I think just in light of recent events, sometimes people say things out of the perspective of who they are or what they want to perceive themselves as without taking the time, the perspective of how it affects others and those around them. And if there's anything I could ask any of you here, any of you listening, some of you that should be here and had already left, but think about more perspective on the things that matter to everyone, not just yourself, and how the things that you say do impact others. For example, let's discuss briefly issues about, the discussions about wanding and checks and things of that sort at Catawba Park. There's things that you guys didn't know that kind of put that into play. Is it something that we want? Some loved it. We got plenty of emails saying, hey, this is awesome. Others saying this is stupid. I get it. Completely do. It's different. But different isn't always a bad thing. As I think you said it, Mayor, when we talked on the phone. We didn't put anybody in the ground today. If there's intel or things that cue our police chief to say, hey, this is something we need to think about, then we're going to listen to that. And so while we could do it better, it was obviously, it was a contractor that we used. And should we be dumping out water bottles and checking while it's absolutely not? There's lots of room for improvement after round one, and we'll get there. Trust me, we value the opinion of our citizens, our constituents, and everyone that's out there that gives us that feedback. We value that. Please know that. However, saying things that could incite actions from others because of strong left or right political views is absolutely effing unnecessary. Do you guys like that? I didn't say the F word. I thought about it. But some of those things are absolutely unnecessary because there are ridiculous people that will have a perceived view of themselves and take actions that don't represent the best intent of the city of TEK. And so if there's anything I could ask is just take a minute, reread what you're about to post or the things that you're going to say, and take a minute to consider how it affects other people or the people, not me, or these guys. We'll all stand behind our decisions. But those that put themselves in harm's way, these two back here and the chief of police that had to change his plans because of all the stupidity. The things that you say that is in the World Wide Web that everybody gets to see that could incite issues within our community is a thing. So just have a moment and have the perspective to ensure the things that you say are in the best interest of yourselves, your family, and the city of TEK. And I'm off my soapbox. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Richard. Councilman Vachunas.
Deep. That was deep. Thank you, Ryan. Okay. Unpleasantness first. Let me start that, about last year, we as a council passed a social media policy for all city employees, which includes us, mainly due to some social media posting by one of our colleagues. And I'm really disappointed that over the weekend, in my opinion, that policy was violated once again, and stirred up some of the things that Ryan was talking about, and just it tied up a lot of time of folks that didn't have the time to deal with issues that didn't need to be dealt with. And it bothers me that we passed that ordinance basically because of Councilman Shirley, and then he turned around and violated it again. Now, let's get to Catawba Fest. At the end of every meeting, we're all up here thanking our first responders and the rest of city staff. So let me thank them once again for all the hard work they do. But we've got a police chief that we absolutely knocked a home run when we hired him. And he's got 27 years of experience in law enforcement. And due to current situations, advised that he would like to have the ability to have wands and things of that nature at certain special permitted events, especially that one. Now, I trust my life to Chief Crosby, and we as a group trust all of your lives to Chief Crosby. I feel like the number one responsibility of a municipal official is public safety. That's first. That's paramount. That's not perspective. And if in his judgment he wanted to do that, I'm going to back him, as we all should. Now, I will agree, allowing the hired company, Show Pros, to make people dump out their water and their coffee, that was a little bit much. And, you know, that was the first time we've done this. We'll tweak it. We'll make it better. And we'll do it right. But I will say, if the chief wants to put up gates and fences and warn people going into one of those events, that's what we're going to do. Because I trust him. Okay? Enough said. So excited about Google Fiber. I mean, I'm not going to beat up Comporium because everybody loves to, you know, but they've been our only choice for as long as there's been a choice. Now we have another choice. And I'm honored that they've chosen to come through here, and I want to thank everybody on staff that worked to make that happen. It's just exciting as hell to me. Lastly, elections coming up soon. Please come out to the forum, or at least watch it. You will learn a lot about the candidates that are out there. I ran 3 times. I ain't running no more. But I ran 3 times. It takes a lot to put yourself out there, because you're going to get beat up. You're going to get beat up through the campaign. And if you get elected, you're going to get beat up. It's just the nature of politics. So it takes a lot for those people to put themselves out there. Shows an awful lot of dedication to your community if you're going to do so. You know, it's great when somebody who's been here for a long time comes out, and it's great when somebody who hadn't been here for a long time comes out, just like Heather did to TKK Forever. So I know who I want to win. Probably I don't think it's fair for me to say that from up here, so I'm not going to. But good luck to all of them, and thank you all for running.
Thank you, Councilman Tunis. Councilman Shirley.
Thank you. I want to thank our first responders for what they do to keep our city safe. We live in the number 1 or number 2 safest city in the state. We're always the number 1 or number 2 safest city in the state. And it's in no small part because of the men and women that patrol our streets and keep an eye on our businesses and keep an eye on our community. In my opinion, the number 1 reason we're the safest city in the state is because of you. Because the people in this city that don't take crap from anybody, that don't put up with nonsense, don't put up with crime, that don't put up with misbehavior, that don't put up with the stuff that goes on outside of TKK. When we read it in the newspaper, we read it on the internet, and we see it on the news. And that crap doesn't go on here because we don't tolerate it. And we don't tolerate it because we all moved here for a reason, because we wanted to live in a safe community. Ryan and Gus, I agree with what you said. What happened on Saturday was something that we can do better. It's something that we can learn from and we can improve on. 100% agree with that. I reject the statement that I violated the social media policy, because I reject any violation of a God-given right that's protected by our Constitution. And I will never bend on that. And I will never be flexible on that. And if what I said offends somebody, too bad. I'm okay offending you if it means that I'm going to stand for your rights, and I'm going to stand behind the oath of this office to protect the Constitution of our United States. And I'm going to do it every time. This council, all these members, want to get it right every time. I have 100% confidence in these 4 men next to me that they want to get it right every time. Every decision we make, every vote we make, every conversation we have, these guys want to get it right, and I support them with that. I think on Saturday we got it wrong, and I'm going to say that. I'm not going to bend on that. I'm not going to apologize for what I said or how I said it, and I expect this council to use this as a learning opportunity to see how we can do it better next time.
Thank you, Councilman Shirley. Mayor Pro Tem Heiser, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, I'll go backwards. So first, I want to just let everybody know that, remind everyone of our Veterans Day ceremony on November 11th at 11 a.m. at the Living Memorial Gardens. And we also have our 2nd annual Veterans Day dinner here in the Glennon Center. Both of these events are awesome. And the dinner last year was just a great time for the first year. We had about 100 people. I'm hoping we can double that this year. A lot of fun. Talk to anybody that, if you know somebody that went, they'll all confirm they had a great time. So keep that in the back of your mind. Put it on your schedule, please. Google Fiber, couldn't be more excited. Those of you who know me know I'm a tech nerd. I'm not afraid to admit it. And I'm probably more excited than anybody in the city about Google Fiber. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about it, and we did a great job of not letting this leak. So that's exciting. TK Forever, all the board members, Heather and everyone else, thank you for volunteering. I know this was not an easy decision. I stayed out of it and listened, but I think you made the right decision. It's unfortunate, but as Chairwoman Jones said, it's the right decision, but it's a tough decision. But I thank her. I thank everyone for their work, their due diligence, and TK Wildlife Conservation Society. Anyone left? Thank you so much for the work you've been doing. We really appreciate it. And in closing, as far as I want to thank everybody from Catawba Fest, Public Safety, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and of course Caroline Hasty leading the charge. You guys, wonderful job setting everything up, getting all the vendors. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion and feedback about the security, because I think people just weren't expecting it, and then it was there. We respect that. I've talked to Chief. We talked to Bob. I think the laws are there that we can do it. Should we do it? That's a decision for council. We made that decision. I think personally going forward, we should revisit the permitting process in that for any city event, if it's a city event in the city, the board of the city staff decides we should prohibit firearms, that should be an approval to council, and we should make that decision as council. And I only say that because, one, it's such a big decision, we should make that decision. And two, when that decision is made, the public comes to us. This allows the public the opportunity, if they do not like our decision, they can remove us from office. I'm not saying the decision would have changed at all, or anything would have changed, but we would be forced to take a vote on it for city events when weapons would be prohibited. Take the vote, and then let the chips fall where they may with our positions. So that's just something I thought of today. Is a not a compromise, but a way to hold elected officials accountable. So, and with that, I thought I had one more thing. Oh, I was going to answer Liz's first question, the communication policy. So it's written, but there are no enforcement mechanisms in the policy. And as everybody knows, we've talked about this before, there are no actions anybody can do to any sitting council member except the governor. The one option that would be available for anything on council, for anything to happen, council can always vote to censure a fellow member. Me personally, I don't think Councilman Shirley's comments in the past rose to that level. I wouldn't have voted to censure Councilman Shirley. I think censure is, something that rises to, a high level. And so I just wanted to answer your question on that. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor Pro Tem. Which comes to me. So I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. Yeah, because you guys don't. Jeez. Folks, we live in a broken world with broken people. And we have experts that we have in place in TGK, in the field of law enforcement, in the field of our fire department, experts that rely on their gut feeling, They rely on the information that they've been presented, and they rely on the feedback that they get from various law enforcement agencies. It's not an easy decision that we have to make. Unfortunately, the small town that used to be a gated community of TGK is gone. The southern border is wide open. There have been millions of illegal immigrants, and yes, they are illegal immigrants, that have flooded across our border. We have no idea where they are. We have no idea what they are. We have no idea where they're going or what they're going to do. And in that, there are Hamas, there are ISIS, there are Chinese nationalists, all of members of organizations that would choose to harm us as Americans and as citizens. And one of the targets that they love to target is small town America. The reason that they love to target small town America is because they think we don't have anything for them. I've got news for them. We have the TGK police force, and we have a 27-year veteran of the police force that is heading our police force. Not only that, he specializes in events. He is from Myrtle Beach, you're correct in saying that, and we knocked it out of the park to hire him for us, to keep us safe. The reason that we are safe is not just because of the people here, but because of the police force here. When I was a young man coming from high school to come over to TGK, to the rich part of America, everybody said, make sure that you do 34 and not 35, because they will pull you over and give you a ticket. And they were right. I trust Chief Crosby with my life. I trust his decisions. I trust his staff. I trust our staff. I trust Chief Hasty and what he says. I don't know everything there is to know about law enforcement, and I don't think anybody sitting in this room can say that they know everything about it, but there is one man that can say he knows a lot about it, and that's Chief Crosby. So I say that to say this, and you can sit down for this. I'm going to stand with my police department. I'm going to stand with my fire department. I'm going to stand with my city staff, and I'm going to stand with the rest of my council members in saying that we stand behind everyone that was a member of Catawba Fest on Saturday. We stand behind our decision to keep this city safe, and we stand behind our decision to keep this city secure. And not only am I standing up for this, but I'm also going to give a heartfelt thank you to everyone that had anything to do with Catawba Fest on Saturday, and a round of applause. And now we come time for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.